Hi, I'm Scott Richmond, and I'm the Undergraduate Studies Coordinator at the Cinema Studies Institute. I've been teaching at the University of Toronto for 5 years, and I've been teaching cinema studies at various universities for 15. I'm delighted to welcome you to Fall Campus Week 2021 and invite you to discover cinema studies at U of T. It's a wonderfully vibrant and supportive and cosmopolitan community with a great deal of student and faculty engagement and a rigorous, inventive, and innovative curriculum and culture. We prepared this video for Fall Campus Week last year, and it's all still true. Please feel encouraged to reach out if you'd like to discuss anything about cinema studies at U of T. We're eager to talk about our program, the courses, and the extracurriculars, and about film and media culture in Toronto generally. Thanks for your interest, and thanks for watching.
My name is Bart Testa. I've been teaching at the University of Toronto for a long time, and I teach a wide range of courses from the first year Story Worlds in cinema course all the way to senior seminars. And there's a pretty wide range of things that I do. So I'm in a good position to answer your questions and to say some things about the experience of the program because I have taught a pretty wide variety of courses. Lauren?
Hi. My name is Lauren McLeod Kramer. I am a faculty member here at the Cinema Studies Institute, and my work, primarily my research is on Blackness and popular visual culture. So I teach classes, these are a few of the classes that I teach, Black Cinemas, which I'm teaching this semester, Framing Cultural Geographies, which is a class that is thinking about how cinema makes space and can help us imagine entirely alternative forms of space. And then a class that I really enjoy teaching that's really connected to my own research is In the Cut, Hip Hop Cinema and Visual Culture. So my scholarship asks questions about how we recognize Blackness in popular culture, how does it look, how does it sound, and then how Blackness interacts with film technology, film history, and film style broadly.
I'd like to speak now about the first year courses in cinema studies. The most important of these courses is CIN 105. It's a full year course called Introduction to Film Studies. This is the gateway course for the cinema studies programs. And you get introduced to approaches to film analysis, concepts of film style, narrative form. And in the second semester, it's a kind of sampling menu covering classic topics and some innovative topics in cinema studies, like what is a documentary film? What is avant-garde cinema? How do we deal with film genres like the Western and the horror film? The concept of authorship and how it is played in the cultural, you might say, appreciation of the cinema and questions of ideology and representation. So this is a course that is very large. It has 400 students. It's almost always fully enrolled, but it has an intimate side. That is that there's a large team of like a dozen teaching assistants, all of whom are graduate students in the cinema studies graduate programs. And those classes meet every week, and there's like 25 students to a tutorial assistant. And those TAs are remarkably smart and well-equipped. The other introductory course or first year course that we have that I'm involved with is Story Worlds in the Cinema. And this is part of the first year foundation courses. This is a course that is intimate. It's a course that only has 20 students, and it is much more discursively organized, lots and lots of discussion. And it's meant to give you a chance to practice your writing, your impressions of cinema, before you get into something more formal like Introduction to Film Studies. Introduction to Film Studies is the gateway course, which means it is a requirement to enter the program. Okay. Now, I'd like to speak about getting into the program. We're frequently asked if you have to apply to the program. No, you do not. As soon as you're admitted to the University of Toronto, okay, you can take Introduction to Cinema. The way in which you get into the program is to earn a B- or a 70 in 105, okay, and across your work, 3.0 full course equivalence. Now, it happens that some students have a rocky start at the beginning of their time at the University of Toronto. They've perhaps taken too many difficult courses, so they don't do so well in the introductory course. You have another shot. So students who fail to meet that minimum requirement of 70% can take a second year course, okay, called Film Cultures 1, and if they earn their 70% in there, they're in a position to enter the program full-time.
There are 3 programs of study available to students in the Cinema Studies program. There's the specialist, the major, and the minor.
So we'll start with the big one, which is the specialist program. At the University of Toronto, you usually take 20 courses. The specialist program will be half of that, 10 courses, beginning with Introduction to Film Study and then a sequence of core courses, Film Cultures 1, Film Cultures 2. These courses are basically historically organized. So Film Cultures 1 takes you to the 60s, Film Cultures 2 takes you from the 60s to the present. And these courses provide you with really strong historical background in cinema. And also this is where students learn the other history, the history of film theories of cinema. And they are both taught by professors. They're smaller than intro. Intro's 400. These classes tend to run at about 100, but they also have a generous number of teaching assistants. So you have seminar-like classes every week in those courses as well. Okay. Now, in addition to that, you're required to take Business of Film or its equivalent. And these courses, the equivalents are basically involved with mathematics. Business of Film is, just like the title says, the way in which the business of film is conducted. Now, those are we might say, the core, the thing that you march through from beginning to end. But in addition to that, you take 5.5 full course equivalents in groups B through G. And we'll get to the groupings later on. But what I want to say is that here's where you get to make a whole lot of choices. And there's a great deal of variety and a growing variety in cinema studies offerings. Right, up to 35 courses at any given year, okay, gives you a lot of choices. And the choices are from the 200 level. So for example, if you want to take Lauren's course in horror, that's one of those courses. Right, the 300 level, which are a bit more specialized. So for example, I teach a course in Chinese cinema. Someone else teaches a course in American cinema. Right, and there are contributions from departments as well. So you can take French cinema with the current director of the Cinema Studies program, James Cahill. So that's kind of where our riches are. And then to finish off your experience of cinema studies, you are required as specialists to take 2 senior seminars, each of which would be a half course, one from the fall to Christmas, etc. And these are specialist seminars. They're very small. They are only allowed to take 20 students each. So as you move through the program, you become that much more familiar with your fellow students, and you also get to work much more closely with your instructors as you move along. I might say that instructors in the Cinema Studies program make themselves available to students so that you can always see them, you can communicate with them. It's a program that prides itself on the intimacy of relations between the students and the faculty in the subject area.
Okay, so there are these 3 formal ways to engage with cinema studies. After the specialist, there is the option for the major program. Currently, we have 177 majors, and this is a great option. It's less course requirements. It's still a great option if anyone is pursuing or interested in pursuing a graduate degree in film studies. Being a major in film studies is a great option, or cinema studies. Also, one of the benefits of a major program is the fact that you can combine this major program with another one from another program in the Faculty of Arts and Science if you're interested in combining your course of study. But as you can see, we're still covering some of these foundational courses in cinema studies, intro to film study, film cultures 1 and 2. But as you can see, the differences is you're taking 1 400 level seminar as opposed to 2, and your number of full course credit equivalence is reduced. This is the minor program. So you can see we're stepping down in terms of the requirements for credits to achieve these different levels in the program. The minor program, again, it's a great opportunity to pursue cinema studies. Again, this time would be in conjunction with another program of study somewhere maybe in the Faculty of Arts and Science, but it allows you to think about how film studies can be integrated into other fields that you're interested in. This is our grouping of cinema studies courses, and it's not, you do not have to pick a strict number of classes within these categories, but what I think that they do, and the reason that we wanted to show them, is they help give you a sense of what film studies entails. It's actually an incredibly expansive discipline that asks a lot of different kinds of questions. So as we already covered, the SIN 105, 201, and 301 are our foundational courses that give you a really clear sense of what cinema studies does, like what are its questions as a field. Then the courses that are in category B, genres and modes, these pick up questions of categorization. Like how do we determine what fits into a film genre or not, especially as genres continue to spread and change and shift over time. These questions of categories is part of what cinema studies does. The group C, social and cultural practices, the courses in this section try to understand how cinema both can reflect culture, can make culture, and kind of gets embedded in our everyday lives as a practice, but also as a way to express ourselves. In Group D, theory and criticism, this is these courses help put films within broader philosophical questions to help us essentially understand how film helps us know the world around us. Okay, Group E, History and Nation. These courses help us think about national identity, not in pure, in terms that are expansive. So how can we think about national identity through cinema in ways that expand beyond geographical borders? Group F, this is where we've got listings for independent studies because there is the option to with the assistance of a faculty member, to put together your own course of study. And then Group G, I really want to highlight the cross-listed section because, as I'm trying to indicate, cinema studies fundamentally is a incredibly interdisciplinary kind of or field of study. And so that means we have lots and lots of cross-listed classes where you'll get a chance to see how what we do in cinema studies interacts with the sorts of ideas and theories that are being established in other departments. So here you can see these classes are cross-listed with history. There's a Scandinavian cinema course, approaches to Korean cinema. And in each of these categories, this is actually just a very, very small sampling of the courses that we offer. The courses that are part of each of these categories grow and expand and change every single year.
One of the things about the University of Toronto is that it's in Toronto. And Toronto is an extraordinarily rich film culture city. And so there are a great many activities both on campus and downtown that you can participate in without any special ticket of entry, right, as a film student. And we really strongly urge you to participate in these because they offer great opportunities for enrichment. Right? So there's a student filmmaking club at U of T. In fact, there are several opportunities if you want to do filmmaking outside of your regular curriculum. There's a screenwriting club at Victoria College. Okay. And probably one of the most interesting of these extracurricular activities is TIFF's Higher Learning, which is actually run by a graduate from our program, which offers panel discussions, lectures, and interviews, some of which are amazingly interesting. Like a little while ago, one of our faculty members did one with a group of Foley artists. And when you take the program, you know what a Foley artist does. But basically, Foley artists do all the sounds in a film that are not really sound effects. The difference between sound effects and Foley is the reason why I went to the seminar, and it was really terrific. So they're accessible and they're open to you. Now, the other thing I'd like to mention about extracurricular activities in a really general way is that Toronto is the home of an immense amount of film festival organization. And you can participate in these film festivals. They're always looking for help for volunteers, and you can get on to the semi-professional side of curating films. But in Town Hall, the main screening venue at Innis College, which is the main classroom for cinema studies, there are at least 20 film festivals. You can barely arrive at the college without a film festival when you had no idea there was a film festival for example, Malaysian cinema. And some of these programs, some of these festivals have grown to considerable size. Others have remained small and intimate, but there's always something happening there, and they're always open to students here. Now, speaking of extracurricular activities, we really should turn this over to the real masters or mistresses of extracurricular activities in the Cinema Studies program, our pals from SINSU, the student group.
We are one of the primary points of contact between staff and faculty, as well as students in the Cinema Studies program. And we do so through like a number of different events and programming and whatnot. So that includes like our Free Friday film screenings, which are now being held on a bi-weekly basis online in collaboration with Innis Town Hall, which is the main screening space at Innis College, where Cinema Studies is hosted. We also provide a really great opportunity for students to enrich their campus experience. We also screen sneak previews of upcoming films before they're released in partnership with a number of distributors and production companies. And we also organize now online equivalents of field trips to places like the TIFF archives, as well as other events to help students get to know their peers, get extra support on assignments, and we even publish a student journal, Camera Stilo. So that's an opportunity for Cinema Studies students to enrich their academic experience by being able to publish their writing or participate on the journal as an editor in helping their peers publish their writing. So those are just some of the ways that we help support students on campus. We also help students through our academic events, as I mentioned before. So this includes like support on major assignments in 105, SIN 105 and SIN 201, and as well as academic enriching experiences through seminars presented by faculty and graduate students within the Cinema Studies program.
What is it about your experience at U of T that caused you to go into Cinema Studies? What prompted you to enter the Cinema Studies program?
So I had always, I guess, before entering the University of Toronto, been interested in film, just as like a fun thing that I enjoyed in my life. But it wasn't until I entered SIN 105 that I realized that film was actually something that I could think about critically and sort of like employ in my academic work. So just sort of, I think it was what Professor Testa said earlier, was like a sampling of different topics and modes of thinking about film, I think was really what encouraged me to continue within the program, because I think also what's great about Cinema Studies and the University of Toronto in general is the opportunity for interdisciplinary learning, and like we see that in the cross-listed courses, as well as just the topics that are brought up in a lot of like the regular CIN courses within Cinema Studies. I think it was just really fascinating for me to be able to dive headfirst into that and sort of like explore film in a way that was enriching for me.
What's everyone's favorite films?
This is sort of funny. I always resist this question, but right now my favorite film is the film that was in my slide, which was just a little moment from Belly, which is a film from the late 90s directed by Hype Williams, who never made another feature-length film, but was really famous for making hip hop and R&B music videos in the late 90s and early 2000s. And it is sort of a masterpiece in its wonky and weird and awesome, but maybe a little bit too weird. So he never made another film.
Do you have any idea why he decided not to make another feature film? Because he has since made more music videos, right?
Yeah, and the music videos are so good. Well, I would like to think that he chose not to make another feature-length film, but the reviews aren't great. So I'm not sure if there were as many opportunities to make another feature-length film. But it doesn't mean that I don't love it. Just because the reviews, I think its Rotten Tomatoes score is 16, but it's 100% in my heart. So.
Bart, I know what your favorite movie is, but why don't you tell everyone?
I'm just like Lauren. My favorite movie, actually, I have two. I cheat. My favorite movie is the one that used in my slide, which is Michelangelo Antonione's Red Desert, starring Monica Vitti, which is a mid-1960s art film, a great experiment in the use of color, and an amazingly dark yet strange experience of urbanization in northern Italy. It's a remarkable piece. Co-stars Richard Harris. My other film is at the other end of the spectrum in a way. It's Orson Welles' last attempt to become a Hollywood film director, Touch of Evil, made in the late 1950s, co-starring Janet Leigh and Charlton Heston. In this film, the already corpulent Orson Welles puts on the pounds to become a corrupt sheriff in a Mexican-American border town. It is absolutely a corrupt motion picture and really, really great. It also has lovely cameos by Marlene Dietrich. It's floated around, it's not hard to see, and there's actually a director's cut called the extended version, which I recommend really highly. And I'm sorry if it poisons your sensibility, but that's why I like it.
Riley, what about yours?
Oh my, there are so many. I feel like I watch so many movies for class that I forget what I actually enjoy. Not that I don't enjoy the movies that I watch for class. But if I had to pick one, I would probably say Baz Luhrmann's smash hit musical, Moulin Rouge. I just think that it's absolutely fantastic. I think that it's like some of his best work. It's just so campy and fabulous. And I think that Baz Luhrmann, just as a filmmaker, has a really great grasp of taking like existing material or stories and adapting them into a way that's just he takes full advantage of the cinematic medium. I just think that they're just so peak cinema in my mind.
Are you a fan of Australia? I think that's Baz Luhrmann's as well.
Oh,
Australia.
That's not that I don't think about Australia. If I think about his work, Australia is not one of my favorites. No.
I think I've only seen one scene from it where Hugh Jackman pours water on himself.
Oh, I think that's the scene that most people have seen from that movie. I would say that that's probably the only part you need to see.
Have you seen Strictly Ballroom though?
Oh yes.
Okay, because that to me is the for anyone who hasn't seen it, it is the highly specialized world of competitive ballroom dancing in Australia, and it is the funniest movie ever. It really just kind of exceeds categories. It doesn't make sense. The style changes sometimes. What feels like in the middle of the film, there's moments of animation, if I remember correctly. It is so out there. Highly recommend. 10 out of 10.
Could you touch on the application process and choosing first-year courses?
Well, there's two parts to this. The first one is you don't actually apply to the program. You take intro, you get a B- or better, and then you're ready to declare your major or specialization, or if you wish, your minor. And you do that by talking to Denise, who take your stamp, as it were. And that's it. Right? So there's no application to the program from within the university. It's completely open to anybody who wants to take Introduction to Cinema and see what happens. And you can take intro during the regular school year. You can take intro over the summer and be all ready to be a cinema student in September.
Is there any course content overlap with other programs?
In addition to classes that are actually cross-listed, meaning that they maybe originate in another department, in a history department or a language department that is a cinema-related course that we will accept, dual credits from. cinema studies, broadly speaking, is always speaking to interdisciplinary questions, meaning that when we think about film, we also are thinking about history all the time. When we think about film, we're thinking about questions of gender or race, which is what I work on. But also, there's the fact that when we talk about cinema, a lot of times we're really thinking about it in these ways that expand kinds of media. So my hip hop course definitely thinks about what we might call a hip hop film, something like Belly, which I said was my favorite, but also other aspects of visual culture, like the relationship between cinema and music videos, for example. So if you feel like you're interested in a lot of these questions that exist across the humanities, across what we call the arts and sciences, cinema is a great way to find the points of connection in what we think about as popular culture, and also, of course, fine art cinema, but how this one thing can actually connect you to the whole, a lot of larger questions about the liberal arts, really.
How has cinema changed in 2020?
Well, I actually recently attended one of our Sensu seminars with one of the grad students from CSI, or the Cinema Studies Institute. And this question sort of came up because their whole presentation was about like cult or like midnight screening practices, and sort of like how those are very, there's a lot of interaction that goes on, and it's very much about being in that space with other film goers. And I think it was interesting sort of talking about like their answer was in the class that they taught, or the class that they're teaching right now, sort of trying to get students to engage online during screenings. So whether that's like through like messaging features and like, you know, setting like emojis and things with their reactions to like really visceral moments in the film, like sort of like manipulating those sort of tools at our disposal. Like I know it's been a very stark transition as a student going from, you know, like watching a film in class with my professor and my peers to, you know, watching it on a laptop at home with my headphones in. That is like a very different experience just in terms of like watching films. But I definitely think that that is something as a student that I've experienced firsthand.
I was just going to say, my view is really pretty simple. Cinema is on pause. It's on pause. If this situation lasts forever, there won't be any cinema. There'll be something else, something like television. But I just think that the way cinema's changed, it's on pause. And one of the most interesting revelations here is plenty of movies are still in the can, ready to go, ready to be shown at theaters. But what the studios are holding back are the so-called tentpole movies, which seem to be absolutely necessary for the business to advance. So by withholding James Bond and Wonder Woman from me, they're basically withholding the whole cinema, all the other kinds of films that circulate. But I just think we're on a pause, and we better get off the pause pretty soon, but we will.
I think this is a really great question because I feel like it can be interpreted so many ways. So I think that Bart's thinking about like the industry and how like the actual mechanics of the film industry, but also, and then I think Riley's kind of description of spectatorship, at, you know, especially as a student, like, well, how do we experience these things together? It also makes me think about like various moments in the history of cinema, like film as an industry and as an art has existed in moments of crisis, moments when it seemed like people wouldn't go to the movies anymore, and it adapts in all of these fascinating ways. Some of them for better, for worse, you know, like 3D films, which are kind of cool, but kind of not. But, you know, like we see film adapt to crisis all the time. And I think that that context is what makes it so that we know that film in some capacity will, I think will exist, but I do think that the way that style is going to change is going to be really interesting. Like we've already seen some productions that are kind of, or I think this is more kind of in television, but have been about COVID and have taken the form of like Zoom style aesthetics. And so I think that it won't be long before we see our current conditions folded into film, because film is always good at that.
Are there any placements or internships available out of this program? The short answer is no, but Professor Testa, I don't know if you want to speak to perhaps in the future we are thinking of implementing something like that.
There are plans afoot. There have been a couple of pilot activities that put students out into the community and to organizations that work with cinema. But I would say informally, we've already built up, thanks to Sinsu and the students who've passed through the program, a pretty interesting network of people that you can get in touch with, get contact with, and so on. But that's partly a matter of the students' individual entrepreneurial spirit. Some people have a lot of that, some people don't have much. So it's kind of up to the individual. But we don't have a formal program of that kind.
We have the Free Friday Films with Sinsu has the programmer role that provides like really valuable hands-on experience with programming that like can really help provide connections to film festivals, because we often co-present films with, we've done it with a Real Asian Film Festival in the past and some other like local film festivals. So, you know, it's not a formal internship, but it is like an opportunity to get some experience in the field if that's something that's interesting to you.
Yeah, and building off of that, there are also opportunities for like work study positions within the Cinema Studies Institute or in other areas at the university. So I know that there was a designated work study position for the Cinema Studies Institute in past years. Occasionally, if a professor needs support on a research project, then there are also research assistant positions, as well as other sort of like cinema related work study positions within Innis College. So even if it's not necessarily like a designated internship, there are opportunities for students to develop academic and professional skills.
One of the benefits of being a cinema studies student, because it's one thing to be like me, a movie enthusiast, and it's another to actually take film studies. So what is the benefit or the highlight of being actually a film studies scholar?
That's an interesting question. Here's the very personal answer. You get to be very close to things that you love, because you have to spend if you like a film, you have to spend a lot of time with it in order to be able to teach it. So on the scholar side, it's that proximity and your kind of intricate weaving in and out of the film, and how you change your mind about it, and how other people change your mind about it. So it's rather like an art historian, I think. Even though art history is so different in many ways, being a film scholar is to be intimate with objects that you actually love.
Right, and you have mentioned, at least to me before, that it's a matter of viewing, but also reading about it too. So you're getting different points of view, you're getting different interpretations of films.
Yeah, and I'm always surprised at how little I notice until somebody helps me, which is one reason why teaching cinema studies is so valuable, because students say things, write things in their papers that I had never thought of. I've been dining off the genius of students at the University of Toronto now for a long time.
I think that when I first started studying film, my family asked me like, well, are you going to ruin movies because now you're studying them? Like, you know, that's going to make them worse. And you can hear people laughing, because I think that question has been asked in other households, but it's just the exact opposite. Like, films open up in this way so that they get so much better because you see more. And I think that if a lot of people sat down and thought of some of the filmmakers that they love the most, what you can really appreciate their work when you realize these people are actually students of cinema. So one of the films we talked about putting for our slide was Get Out, because it's now approaching, I think, Denise, it's 5 years, you said, old.
Five years next year.
Yeah, and it's so good, but I think that to really appreciate that film is to have seen a lot of other films. Like, to have seen The Stepford Wives makes Get Out a much better film. And so, because that film is basically film studies in a textbook. And so recognizing all of it, the connections it's making, makes the movie better. It doesn't make it worse. It's the exact opposite. I
really just want to echo what Professor Kramer just said. Like, it does, like, again, I've also been asked, like, how can you still watch movies now? Like, but like, it makes it so much better, you know? And even when I'm watching movies I don't like, I now have like I have the skills and I have the ability to articulate what I don't like about them, you know? It's kind of like learning another language, you know? And like, I'm a French minor, so of course I appreciate the study of language, and like, studying film is like studying another language. It's like being able to communicate with people across like actual verbal language, but also like across different cultural backgrounds and different filmic backgrounds. So it just really makes, I don't know, to me, life just in general more enriching.
Cinema studies cover such a wide array of like disciplines just in this program. Like you get a lot of the benefit you get out of like an English degree and like a media studies degree, philosophy, semiotics. Like we go through all of this in interpreting and like analyzing film. So it's been really helpful to me in like other classes and other departments coming from this background. And I think that's probably true with a lot of disciplines. Like cinema studies as a degree is just so involved and like all encompassing. It's like amazing.
Thank you very much for joining us. And I'd like to thank Professor Testa, Professor Kramer, Riley, and Kit for basically sharing all their thoughts and experiences with us. And thank you very much for joining us. And hopefully you learned something new and that you'll join us sometime in the future in our love of cinema.